Welcome to this In Focus Election Information Special being presented by the Wayne County Area Chamber of Commerce and Whitewater Community Television. Over the last week and a half, we've had a lot of conversation about whether there would be 3 candidates running for mayor for the city of Richmond or 2 candidates running for mayor. We are down to the point where there will be 2 candidates as one, the Libertarian candidate, has decided to withdraw from the race. We're talking with Debbie Berry, Wayne County Clerk, about some of the ramifications of that and how this is going to be handled for the voters. And Debbie, thanks a lot for coming in this evening and talking with us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Let's start by, obviously most people know by now that we started off with 3 candidates in this race. One of them made a moving error, basically moved out of the city limits and eventually has had to withdraw from the race. Where do we go from here? What changes are coming to the ballot? For those that have already voted, what are they looking at? And you can start in any of those places that work best for you.
Well, you know, residency is a big deal when you're running for an elected office, and if you move out of that district, then you have to withdraw from the ballot according to the Indiana code. So that's what happened, and when we notified the candidate that she would have to withdraw, then we had to make preparations with communications with the Indiana Election Division in Indianapolis. The co-counsels there, we called them immediately to get counsel from them, and discovered that, you know, when she withdrew, that we would have to reprint the ballots.
You make that sound like there was not an option there.
The code states that if a candidate dies or is no longer a candidate, then the board shall reprint the ballots.
Okay.
So there is some exceptions to that. For instance, if it's an uncontested race, which it is not.
Right.
And also if it's a holdover candidate, if it's uncontested and that candidate passes away, and we had that last year in the county election. That candidate was a holdover candidate, so we were not required to reprint the ballot. If the other thing is, we had to be prepared and contact the Libertarian Party if they were going to appoint someone to take her place on the ballot, because they, you know, did have the opportunity to do that. And so we contacted that party, and they sent me in writing that they were not going to replace the candidate.
Okay.
So that's just where we were at. We began the process of notification, you know, the printers to get the paper ballots, the absentee ballots reprinted, and the programmers of our vendor for our electronic voting machines to reprogram to remove the candidate on the electronic voting machines.
Now, what makes this even more interesting is the fact that voting had already begun.
Yes. Which...
What happens for those people who have already voted, who are wondering what will now happen to their vote? What do you need to tell them? What do they need to know?
Well, I think the most important thing that they need to know is their vote will count. Their vote will count, the ones who have voted. But they now have the right to request a replacement ballot. So those absentee mail-in ballots that we have mailed out to people, we will notify them because, you know, we keep records that reflect who we have sent an absentee ballot to, the ones who have been already sent back that have returned. We will notify all of those people who we sent them a ballot, whether they've returned it or not. Then they will have the option to request a replacement ballot. When we send it to them, when it comes back, it will be marked specifically replacement ballot, and it will be either matched with their request for the absentee ballot or the original ballot that they cast. And then on election day, when those ballots are counted, that original ballot will be spoiled and their new ballot will be counted. If they have not sent in a replacement ballot, then the old ballot will count. You know, a lot of people who have already voted may not want to cast another vote, but most of them will want to select who they want for their mayor, because in the fall you can vote a split ticket.
Right.
Now, those people who have voted on the machines, again, you know, everyone signs in. We know who has signed in to vote. So we also will send them a notice that the ballot has been reprinted, and they have the option. We will send them the form and ask them to bring it back to the courthouse to vote on the machines. If they do not want to do that, if they want to vote paper, you know, we will make sure that they get that. But again, if they want to leave their vote as it is, it will count, because when we scan those votes now on election day, it will not recognize the candidate that has been removed.
Okay, so if someone has voted for the candidate that has been removed, that won't really count on election day. If they have not changed that vote basically in that race only would not actually count and would not actually show up, because that person is no longer on the ballot.
That's correct.
Okay.
But the rest of their vote will count. The rest of their ballot will count.
All right. Anything else about the special change in ballot that we need to get out to voters right now? And it really, at this moment, only affects those people that have already voted.
That's correct. Those are the only ones that it affects. The people who have requested an absentee ballot, you'll be getting a letter stating that, of course, that, you know, we have reprinted the ballots, and that they have the right to request a replacement ballot. If they respond to that letter, and they will receive a self-addressed stamped envelope, they will just return that form that comes with that letter in that envelope. It's very, very important to make sure that these voters know, and we have put it in the letter that we've crafted together to send, not to send that form with the absentee ballot that they already have at home, to send them back separate. They have everything that we send to voters has a self-addressed stamped envelope. So the most important thing is that they send that absentee request in the separate envelope that we send with the letter.
Okay.
I think that is the most important thing, and for voters to know that their vote will count. And the deadline, that is one little issue that we're very concerned about, because we have to move so swiftly on this because of the deadline to accept absentee ballots.
And what is that deadline?
October the 24th. So October 24th is the last day we can send them a ballot, an absentee ballot. But the deadline for them to return it is November the 2nd, the day before election. So it's very important that voters know, when you get this letter, read it carefully, because it tells them to send it back swiftly so that we can get them their ballot, because we'll send the letter and the form first. If they want a new ballot, they have to send the form back, give us time to get them the form. So these letters and the absentee requests, the form, the ABS 5, is going out tomorrow.
Okay. While we've got you here, let's talk a little bit about actual voting. That's what we want people to do. It's been made easy in a lot of different ways. We had you in a little bit earlier in the season talking about some things. Something that we didn't get a chance to talk about is the traveling board. Why don't you explain what that is, the circumstances in which it's used, and how people can have that service?
Well, Thursday, October the 22nd is the first day that a registered voter with an injury or illness, or a voter even caring for a confined person at a private residence, or a voter with disabilities may vote an absentee ballot before an absentee voter board at the voter's residence or place of confinement. So between October the 22nd and November the 2nd, we have traveling absentee board teams, and we will be scheduling those folks. Anyone who wants to vote absentee can call our office, and we will put you on one of the dates that the traveling board will be going out. We work very closely with all the nursing homes. We schedule teams to go in there. Friends Fellowship, we send 2 teams in at least one day. Sometimes if there's more voters there, then we do send additional teams. We work with Arbor Trace, Golden Living Center, the local nursing homes here. But it is not just limited to nursing homes. It is also, if it's at a residence and you need an absentee, if you're a shut-in, or someone who cares for someone in a home, we'll be more than happy to come send that traveling board to let people vote.
And how can they reach your office for this?
The best way, of course, I think still is by telephone, 973-9304.
Okay. Something else I wanted to mention again and make sure that we got right, and we've only got a couple of minutes left. We've pushed in Wayne County for the past few years vote centers, and that everybody could go to vote centers. Vote centers are not really in operation for the towns in Wayne County, correct?
The early voting is not.
The early voting is not.
Not for
Can
the
they
small
early vote
towns.
in your office the days leading up? Like there's a couple of Saturdays, the 24th and 30th, where a vote center will be open at the Coleman Center, but your office will be open. Can they vote in a town election in your office?
No, they cannot. This is just for, the small towns is confined to election day voting.
Okay, so for the small towns, and we're talking about Cambridge City, Centerville, Milton, Dublin, that are having votes for town council, their voting is only on election day, November 3rd, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the places you see there on the screen. So not even at the clerk's office early.
No.
Okay, so for those towns, right there on the screen, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., it's traditional, it's voting day, it's get there, vote early, vote often.
That's correct.
Okay, and for Richmond, though, there will be vote centers the week before. There is also voting on the 2 Saturdays that I mentioned, the 24th and the 30th. Voting will take place at the Coleman Center from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., but also at the clerk's office in the Wayne County Courthouse.
That's correct.
Okay. And you see those dates on November 3rd, where there will be additional vote centers open, but those affect Richmond municipal election only. 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the Coleman Center, First English Lutheran Church, First Baptist Church, and Townsend Center on election day.
Yes, that's correct. And on election day, they cannot vote in our office.
And on election day, they cannot vote in your office.
No.
That's where the party's going to be. She
We've
doesn't
got
want you to
too
see
much.
the party.
We've got too much to do on that day.
Okay. And obviously, we'll be looking for results. Hopefully, we'll be able to see some of the results on a couple of different points that night. Maybe some of the early voting numbers. Will those be coming out to early that evening?
Well, we hope so, but to be honest, this is the first time, we've had this situation with reprinting, and so there is a likelihood that the results will be later on election night.
You just broke my heart.
I know. Ours too. Ours too. We've been spoiled with getting out of there, and not having to hang around. So we're just, with this, process, there is a possibility that, we may have to stay later.
And it may also be that the vote totals in some of the towns may be so heavy or so late because none of those votes are coming early. All of those votes are coming that day. So it may slow down that process.
That's correct.
Debbie Berry, thank you very much for coming in. We appreciate you coming in and clearing this up. And obviously, if people have any questions about the election, they can go to your website or they can give you a call. And let's put your phone number up one more time. What is that number?
It is 973-9304. And please don't assume, please do call, because it's very important if you have a question that we answer those questions.
Okay. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching this In Focus election special, information special being made possible by the Wayne County Area Chamber of Commerce and Whitewater Community Television. Thanks for watching.